This is a 2021 Citroen e-C4, and in this video I'm going to look in detail at the boot, the space with the seats up and the seats down, which is something that isn't really covered in a lot of other videos I've seen. So in this video I'm going to show you as much as I can about the boot space, so if you're looking at buying one of these then you can decide whether this vehicle is suitable for you. So first off, boot volume is 380 litres, but that doesn't really mean much to most people, so I'm going to get tape measure out and tell you the sizes, and with the seats down it then increases it to 1,250 litres. So overall the space is pretty reasonable and it's quite a practical size, and it's sort of on average for this size of vehicle, sort of Volkswagen Golf size I suppose. But with the seats down it is actually quite large. So first off we have got a parcel shelf, which are on little slightly elasticated strings here, all pretty standard. So what we'll do is get rid of that first, and then we can see what we're looking at. So with the parcel shelf gone, you can see it's a very nice square shape. There's no protruding wheel arches and a flat floor. This is a removable floor base that you can have at two levels, which I'll show you in a minute, but this is at the higher level, so it's sort of flush with this protector here. Obviously you've got your latch hidden down in there, so it is fairly flat. It does sort of slope up a little bit. It's not sort of flush or flat with the bumper, but overall it's a very usable, practical space. So the load height, using the tape measure here, which is rather awkward because there's quite a gap between the back of the bumper and the floor there. I really need a level or bit of card or something laying across the carpet, but anyway, I would say that is roughly 73 centimeters height, and then we're looking at a depth of roughly 76 to 77 centimeters, but of course those back seats are sloped, so if we go from the top of the back seat to there, we're looking at roughly 59 centimeters, something like that at worst. But of course it's a sloping back, so it depends where you measure from. And then the height, well, if we take it in the middle there, it's 64 centimeters. So now for the width. Generally it's flat along there, but it does protrude a little bit there, so let's just do the flat edge first, and that's bang on 100 centimeters, so 1 meter. And then at the back you do have these little intrusions, so it drops down to 94 centimeters. So as far as other practicalities, you've got pockets on either side. I've got the locking wheel nut key in that side. It looks like there should be a warning triangle in here because you've got a couple of elasticated straps there, but this car doesn't have one, and this came from a Citroen main dealer. This was their demo car and it didn't come with a warning triangle. Whether it's meant to, I don't know. And then again, pocket on this side the same, not particularly deep, but I've got a punch for a repair kit there I keep in there. You've got these two grills on either side. I don't think they do anything. I guess it's just allowing airflow. And then, as I said, this floor lifts out and you can adjust it at two levels, so let's show you that next. So if you have it at the highest level, as I did, you get quite a bit of storage space underneath. It's the whole area, and as you can see I've got the charge cable there, and then that is the tablet holder, which you can snap into the dash on the passenger side at the front. So you can decide whether you want this floor at that higher level or flat on that carpet at a lower level. So let me just get rid of these two things and then I'll show you. So with this floor at the higher level, which sort of makes it flush with this protective trim here, it gives you this quite a large access area underneath to store your charge cables, which is quite nice. However, when you go to lift it up, it hits just there, so you can't actually lift it particularly high. Certainly high enough to get stuff out here, but when there's stuff at the back, it is rather awkward, so you do have to lift it all the way out to access stuff at the back. But anyway, very minor thing, because it is rather a large single piece. But when you want to put it at the bottom, it just simply sits down like that, really easy. And that's now laying flush on that carpet below, which gives you that extra storage capacity. And that depth now is about 13 centimetres, about 5 inches. So with that floor at its lowest level, you now have access to tie-down hooks in all 4 corners, which you don't have when the floor is sitting up at that level. So this floor is quite thick, that's 20 millimeters. It's obviously covered in this sort of felt carpet material, but on the back there you can see it's a sort of fiberglass type material. Well, not fiberglass, but you know, some sort of modern plastic resin type material, but it is very light. It is hollow, it's got like a honeycomb section, but for a large item there, I can lift it with one hand. It is very light. But at the back end of it, you've got 2 bits of rubber there which squash when you push it in, so that's what stops it from rattling around. Very simple solution, but it works. So when you push the floor in, they get slightly squashed, which just makes that floor sit down there tight, and there's no movement at all. So that's quite clever. I just stuck the floor up there on the roof. So this lower carpet also has a tag on there, as you've seen, and you can lift that up, and then there isn't any storage. Well, certainly not on this model. Let's just lift this out of the way completely, because this model, being the Shine Plus, has a large subwoofer there in the boot. But if you've got one of the other models that don't have that, maybe there's a little bit of storage down there, probably enough for your puncture repair kit and maybe one of the charge cables. And at the back there we've got a bit of polystyrene. Oh, that lifts up. So all that is doing is filling that sloping floor there. This is just a wedge, and is also protecting, well, stopping those studs from doing any damage. So that just sits loose there like that. So next, let's drop the rear seats. So it's a 60-40 split, which is quite common. And then you can drop those down like that. And as you can see, there is a step up there to the back of the seat, but when you put this false floor back in at the higher level, that levels that off. Let's just show you what the seats look like from the side. So they don't go completely flat, but then they don't do that on very many modern cars anyway. In the olden days, as it were, the seat cushions used to fold up, and you used to put them up here, and then seats used to fold properly flat and flush with the boot floor. But it seems that no one, apart from the Honda Civic, I think, anyway, certain Honda models, I think they still have quite elaborate rear seats, but no one else seems to bother to do that anymore. So consequently the cushions, when you've got them down, sort of slope up a little bit. But they are better than most. They are flatter than a lot of other cars. A lot of them, they do sit at more of a steep angle. So let's put the floor back in. As you can see, I'm doing this one-handed because I'm holding the camera with my other hand, and when that is in, that fills that gap. It is level, and it is quite a practical space. And then, as you can see, that's all flush with those folded seats. So now I'll measure the total area with my tape measure with the seats down. I would just say that driver's seat is in my position, and I think 5'10", and as you can see, there's still quite a bit of space there as well if you need to store anything down there. You do have a transmission tunnel in the middle because this vehicle does also come as a combustion engine variant. But anyway, let's see what you can fit in here. So from the back of my driver's seat there, you're looking at 160 centimetres, so 1.6 metres, there we go. But if you're willing to push those seats forward a bit more, then obviously you can gain more from that. These seats are dished out a little bit, but I'm going to ignore that and go from the thickest part there. So yeah, 1.6 metres. In terms of width, it's the same as before because this is the narrowest part, this little intrusion at the end of the tape measure there, which I've already measured. If you needed to know the width between the doors, I suppose, yeah, let's measure that, but I'm going to have to put the camera down to do that. So I had to climb in to do that. So between that armrest and that armrest on that door, that's 128 centimetres. And then if you did want to store something in there, for example, if you were buying a flat screen telly, you've got that 128 centimetres. Well, actually you'll have a bit more because it's this area there, so you could add on another 8, so you could add on another 16 centimetres in the width. But anyway, you're looking at roughly, let's take it from there, 20 centimetres. Yeah, and even at its worst, from the air vents there to the cushion there, that's still 20 centimetres. So that's how much space you've got there behind the seats. But of course, if you pull them forward, you're going to gain a bit more. But of course, these air vents aren't going to move. So that's the minimal distance. So finally, the last dimension is the distance between this and this. This is the plastic moulding that the parcel shelf sits on, and these do protrude out more than that down there. So your maximum width there, if you're loading something large in here, is 87 centimetres. Well, 87.3 centimetres to be exact, between there and there. So raising the back seats is very easy, just got to make sure you don't trap the seat belt, so it's best to do that. And that locks there. Felt like that needed to be slammed more, but it didn't. And then same with that side. And then finally you've got the armrest in the back seat, but if you pop up the headrest there, you do have load through there. So I think I'll just measure that for you as well. So that isn't flat on the floor, but anyway, that is 15 centimetres by 22 centimetres. But that's ideal if you're buying timber, and that goes all the way through over that centre console right to the front. So let's just measure the total length that you could get in there. So when you're loading some timber or something long, then you can run it all the way to the centre console here, and it does depend where the end goes and what you're loading, of course, how big it is. So you could go to the back of that pocket, you could go to there, but I think for the purpose of this I'm going to measure it to that point, which isn't far off the buttons there, because that's where you would load it if you didn't really want to do any damage. And that is 246 centimetres. One final dimension is that space underneath when you've got the floor at its highest level is 10.5 centimetres deep. So I think that's about all I can show you. Just put the parcel shelf back in. So if you found this video useful, please do click the thumbs up, that really does help. Also subscribe to the channel, and if you want to know more about the Citroen e-C4, then I've put a link in the video description below to a playlist where you can see other videos on this car.